Hello, and welcome to the Weekly Scroll Podcast. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Sakura Kinomoto.
And today we're going to be reviewing Daisy Chainsaw from Charlotte Laskowski. This is a game of magical girls, cosmic threats, and saving the world one episode at a time.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. This is an interesting game.
I like this game a lot, actually. The more I read this game, the more I'm like, I really do like this game. So
yeah, I like it. I'm a big fan.
Personally grew up on a lot of magical girl shows. I watched Sailor Moon as a kid. I obviously just referenced Card Capture Sakura, which I loved as a kid. I fucking love that show. This show was the best. So I was stoked on this, and I think the potential for characters and like the very like episodic, like 26 episode anime series kind of feel that you can accomplish through this is like very satisfying and like a lot of fun for a format.
Yeah, for sure. And I like, I mean, we'll get into the format of this stuff in it. It's really neat. I love the book too. You know what I realized? Almost every game we reviewed, I think maybe except for Wolfwald so far this year, it has been a Space Penguin release, and it wasn't even on purpose.
Wow. Actually, I didn't. I guess what has been, yeah.
Well, we did Neil Sonat, and then we did, what did we do after that?
Something.
Yeah, we absolutely did something after that. You couldn't be more correct.
So helpful
to say that is what we did. But Daisy Chainsaw is a Space Penguin release, and then Swivers, I guess, was not a Space Penguin release, but Jarrett was an editor.
Okay. It's all Jarrett adjacent, essentially, is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, everything is pretty much Jarrett adjacent, realistically.
It's like the 6 degrees of separation.
Kevin Bacon, but it's actually just Jarrett. Bro, I'm not kidding when I say I would be shocked. I don't think it's possible to pick up any TTRPG that exists and have it be more than 6 degrees from Jarrett Crader.
Any modern one or like any of all time? Like if I pick up Classic Traveler,
I guarantee you could get. I guarantee you could get to Classic Traveler in 6 easily, because all you'd have to do is find someone who had done a Classic Traveler hack, and then find a game that Jarrett Crader had like edited based from that. You know what I mean?
Okay, so Aaron motherfucking King.
I was gonna say Aaron King is the first one.
Is the first one because he did the Spice World, which is legally distinct from Dune and definitely not even close.
And Aaron King has been on the Weekly Scroll and the Weekly Scroll hosts. Boom. That's like 2 degrees. It's like 3 degrees. Like the bottom line. Boom. It's crazy. But so realistically,
we've another direction.
But realistically, we've only done 2, I guess. But also, like I said, Jarrett did the Swivers episode, or reviewed the Swivers. But the Daisy Chainsaw book is a really neat book. So for those in podcast land that can't see, we'll get into what it physically looks like in a second. But it is a spiral bound book.
Yeah, I love that.
I love a spiral bound. For table play, it is so perfect. I mean, that's the reason I got the spiral bound Ecomofos, was specifically to be able to just sit at the table. So I really, really love the format of this book in a nice spiral bound. It's got a nice black spiral on it. It's still A5 sized, and we'll get into a little bit more of that when we actually get into the game. And I think we're just going to do that because our goal now is, remember when we used to do 45 minutes of like kickstart the podcast?
Oh, fuck, what a terrible idea. I mean, I will say it was during that like post lockdown Kickstarter boom. So I think in the time it was like a massive use of our time. But it made sense then because it was just blowing up at that time in like 2021, 2022, 2023-ish. But yeah, it's fine that we don't do that anymore.
Yeah. It's funny because we our episodes are still kind of long. We definitely talk too fucking much, right? But no. I can see I save things into chunks of like hundreds in folders and stuff. And we have a folder at 100 episodes. And then in the next folder, it's beyond 100. It was like 130 episodes before we hit the same time that 100 episodes was.
Cool.
So we are getting slightly faster, and for that, we'll just fucking start the game. Let's get into it. So, Daisy Chainsaw, the cover slaps. What you're going to find through a lot of the book is pixel art and pixel fonts. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Gorgeous.
they look great. The book is really enjoyable to go through, but yeah, this cover is a cut above the rest of the book. It's really very good.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. So it has a magical girl on it, and they have a chainsaw, and they're chainsawing up some stuff, looking all cute and deadly. And that's neat. Purples, greens, reds. It slaps. The cover is absolutely
really
beautiful.
Good color palette too.
Yeah, all the way through is a fantastic.
Throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, really, really good. Getting into it. So first of all, before we get too deep, let's go to this nice black page and talk about the fact that we got. Look at this. We got bookmarks, baby.
Wow.
Very nice to see. We also get. We go to the main page here. Daisy Chainsaw, art, layout, and development, and writing. All Charlotte Laskowski. Editing by Matthew K. And then there's a blood splatter pixel art. That is not hyperlinked, but it's whatever. From jasontomlee.itch.io/blood-fx, in case you want some blood splatter effects there. And then some thank yous to some people, and then bighog.games. That's also not hyperlinked. I would definitely, if you're going to hyperlink your whole book, hyperlink the link to your website, of all things.
Probably valid.
Yeah. And then the book starts with 2 character sheets. Fine place. I'm good with that. It's interesting. I think in the actual book, what's interesting is the character sheets are on the back of other pages. It would have been, I think, interesting if they just did the character sheets both on the back of themselves, because then you could theoretically tear out that one page and have like 2 character sheets from the book. But with this, you can't, because in the book itself, it's on the back of the table of contents and the back of the what's the sheet what's the page we just went over? Like the one that says Daisy Chainsaw and has all the stuff on it. What would you call this page?
Not the title and credits page. That's not the right thing, but that is technically still true. That page,
yeah, but whatever, that page. Yeah,
I'm missing word.
Yeah, and then one of the pages has blood all over it, which is neat, and then I guess one doesn't. So you get. Are they both the same? Yeah, they're both report cards. Yeah. So character sheets in the beginning. That's cool. Then we get to the table of contents, and guess what, friends? Guess what? Table of contents is completely hyperlinked, which is fantastic.
It's amazing.
That's really nice. It's nice. I did read this physically. This is definitely one. It made it so easy, as I said, with the format. It was really nice to read this physically. So I did chop in and check the other ones. And one thing that I did notice in the PDF, I don't know if it is on here. I guess it is. The pages are gray, not white.
Oh.
Yeah. Which I'm a big fan of. It's a very light gray, but it definitely makes it slightly easier on the eyes. Like if you're going to have
to look at,
yeah, if you're going to have white background, we've said this a bunch, like have a texture on it, make it like eggshell even, because if you're looking at like a computer screen and it's just
or
white,
my iPad at night,
yeah, it blasts you, in the face, which is awful. But it is slightly gray, which I didn't really notice, but it is really nice. So table of contents, we have, I think 7 sections. We got playing the game, character creation, weapons, spells, the team, combat, and the DM guide. The whole book is roughly like 75-ish pages. 74, 75 if you go with the notes in the back. It's not too bad.
No, I honestly, mechanically, a pretty tight little game too. It seems like a lot of fun to play. It's very easy to kind of get down.
Yeah. So I said this before.
And you'll say it again.
I'll say it again and again. Intro into the game. So, playing the game. It uses the same pixel art as the primary title pages throughout, and it says, "Once upon a time in a normal high school." The catchphrase kind of thing. Daisy Chainsaw is a game of magical girls, cosmic threats, and saving the world one episode at a time. Players roleplay as magical girls, teenagers with special powers living a double life. So, There's a whole section here. It's to start playing. It's for 3 to 7 people, and the Disaster Master, or the DM, that is the name that they've used for their GM, the Disaster Master. I don't mind that. That's neat. I love when people come up with good little DM GM little quirk, the Dark Master, whatever you call it. Those are neat. But basically, you need stuff, people, some 6-sided dice, right, and a Disaster Master. And we'll get into the rest later. And then as far as the rest of the players, that is the next section. The rest of the players basically says that the role you play as these magical girls, and you are MCs, your main characters. And you have these special powers. You're living in a double life, and you were first noticed by a mascot that enabled your magical powers. We'll talk more about mascots later, because I do have questions about the mascot section. Like, I know what it is, but I have questions about like the way it was to put in the book. There are transformation sequences between your normal life and your magical girl persona. Anyone that's ever seen a magical girl anime, like, again, Sailor Moon is going to be the one that pops into people's heads a lot, but there very much is a clear, like, whole fucking sequence. And
if you go on Crunchyroll, there are a ton of magical girl animes. I'm like, I've never even heard of this one, bro. Like, what is this?
Yeah, it gets it's neat. I like it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's always funny to me, because I'll tell people this and I'll be like, Sailor Moon would beat the fuck out of Goku, and you could see the dudes be like, no, and it's just they're universal. Like, Sailor Moon would destroy Goku. Like, it's not even close. Are you looking at me like that's not true, as if she's not literally a universal power?
I mean, I guess that is true. So
yeah. Anyway, they have transformation sequences between their normal life and their magical persona, trying to become strong enough to deal with the big bad of the season, which we will also get into later in the game. And there is a crossover between their normal life and their transformative magical world persona, which could be permanent scars, trauma, things like that. The lives do cross over between the two. And then MCs progress as a team by their power level. That's basically what this is. It's a breakdown of the game here in the rest of the players section underneath the playing the game section. Then we're moving into rolling the dice. And we've said this over and over again, that having a little primer to what the game is and the basics of how to play it before you get into character creation is the ideal way, in our opinion, to do a game. And guess what they do here? Exactly that. They just give you a breakdown of what you're going to do in the game. They give you a section here on rolling the dice, so what a roll generally will look like, and then goes into character creation.
And our opinions are inherently correct, in case you were wondering. So.
Yeah, it's objective, not subjective, because we are clearly authorities in this space, right? So rolling the dice, basically how it works is MCs describe what they want to do, the DM referees, and then they roll stuff. Like, it's a TTRPG, people. We know this. And the way it works is you roll a number. You're pretty much going to work with a primary stat and a secondary stat. You have 4 stats altogether. But the way the base roll works is you roll a number of dice equal to your primary stat. And then if a number on the die is equal to or less than your secondary stat, it's a hit. So the example, basically, like if you have a 3 in charm and a 2 in, or let's say a 4 in charm and a 2 in power, you roll, 4? You roll 4 dice for the charm. And if one of them is a 2 or less because your power is 2, that's a hit, right? As many as there are, right? And then a 6 is always a miss. A 1 is always a hit no matter what. And it explodes, but it explodes in an interesting way because, and it can keep exploding. It counts as another hit because you're not exploding damage and stuff like that. Hits are your damage. So if you roll a 1, that's a hit. And then if you roll another 1, that's a hit. And if you rolled a 2 and the primary stat was a 2, that's another hit. And you don't roll anymore, but that's 3 additional hits. Every time you roll under, it counts as a hit.
I always think it's funny that, like, I'm so used to exploding dice happening on the highest, you know. It's very, like, it's fun to have the inverted, just like roll the lowest possible. Your 1s explode in this game, which makes sense to me. It's roll under.
Yeah, it's neat. And I like, there's a little graphic here in pixel art of ways to roll, and it's a phone, which I assume it means electronic. You can roll electronically, or there's actually 2 D6s here that are covered in blood, which is dope.
Perfect.
And there's an example here of exactly what I just talked about with like the 4 and the 3 and everything, and it's great. I like it. There's some pixel art on it for like dice and stuff too. It's great. And then we get into character creation. You want to take character creation, buddy?
Yeah, so character creation is 4 easy steps, and boy, do we love a numbered list of steps for character creation. You have choose your weapon, choose your quirk, allocate statistics, and spells and abilities. They all have page numbers, and all of those page numbers are hyperlinked. That's right, there are bookmarks. The table of contents is hyperlinked, and there's inline hyperlinks in this PDF. Big
claps in the chat.
Ryan's noise gate kills the clapping sound, but he is actually clapping right now.
That's why I say claps. Clap, 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 clap. There you go.
Clap, 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 clap. Yeah. I'm trying to think if you know what? We'll get there. Don't worry, guys. We're going to get there. So right after that, we have a list of weapons. This is basically just a simple breakdown of all the weapons. It says what they are, a short little like fun description, not really abilities, and then the 2 stat options you can take from those to be your primary stat for your main weapon or your secondary stat from your offhand weapon. Anything you want to add there, Ryan?
No, it's a good list because we get the list of them here, and then we'll get there's a whole chapter that goes into detail about them later because they're so important to your character. So nothing to add.
The chapter's pretty immediate. I'm wondering though if the blurb under character creation where it explains how the stat works is the only place that is.
Where what is?
Under choose your weapon where it talks about the primary and secondary statistics.
Well, it's in the beginning on rolling the dice, and then it's again under the choose your weapon section.
Basically, I'll summarize real quick. When you're picking weapons, you have a primary, you have a secondary. From those, there are 2 stats under those. For your primary weapon, either one of those stats can become your primary stat. For your offhanded weapon, either one under that can become the secondary stat. The only thing is your primary and secondary stat obviously cannot be the same stat. I guess it's not obvious, but it cannot be the same stat. So if you pick a bat and you have charm as your primary, you cannot then pick a gun as your secondary and have charm as well. You'd have to pick focus as your secondary. And those are what, like we said earlier, makes you decide how many dice you roll and what you have to roll under on those dice to get a hit. There we go. I did it.
Yep.
So forward to our. Ooh.
Well, and then you get 2 weapons. Did you say that? Yeah.
I did.
Okay. Well, then I missed that.
Primary and secondary, yeah.
No. All right.
Yeah. Allocating statistics. Yeah. So you have 4: charm, focus, heart, and power. They all start at 1. You get 6 points to a lot. Between them, the maximum any stat can reach is 6. There are also like 4 kind of derived stats or like minor stats, which are how many spells you know, your speed, which is your movement speed, harm pool, which is your HP, and saving throw. So charm is your ability to persuade or captivate when you're in your magical form, when you transform, it is your magical acuity. It equals the spells the spells is charm -1. And it says spells are covered on page 49. It's inline hyperlinked. So beautiful.
So beautiful.
Yeah, focus, mental acuity, clarity, thinking under pressure, and speed. Your speed is equal to your focus plus primary stat in 5-foot increments. Very standard kind of grid move. Every square is 5 feet. Heart is willpower, courage, mental and physical harm, and your harm pool is equal to harm times 3. Power is intimidation, show of strength, show of force, and it's your saving roll. Or your saving throw is roll over.
It's the power versus
power
focus.
over focus. Yeah, it's roll power over focus. Yeah. And then you have burnout points, which are equal to your team level, and we'll talk more about burnout points when we get to the burnout points section.
Really 4 stats is fine. For me personally, that I think 3 is ideal. 4 is great, but I do like that each of the 4 have their own derived
Yeah,
thing.
me
Like
too.
if you're gonna have one thing be a derived thing, like it's nice to have that all four have like a nice rounded derived thing.
I
Yeah.
agree.
I will say,
Moving on.
I did
Say
notice
it.
before we move on that
Say it.
when we go to the steps in the beginning, where it says become a main character in 4 easy steps, it's choose your weapon is 1, choose your quirk is 2, allocate stats is 3. But when you actually get down into those, 1 is choose your weapons, and then they do 2 allocate stats. So they've mixed up 2 and 3 in the order compared to like the list above, like immediately above. And I think if you, yeah, so they've flipped allocate stats to 2 and quirk to 3 as opposed to in the list. So that's just, I mean, it's whatever.
Yeah.
But it is a thing that I noticed.
That is funny. I mean, I've noticed it now you pointed out. Yeah, so choose your quirk. Weapon quirks are described as like physical modifications you make to your weapon. They're, you customize your magical girl sniper rifle. Yeah, weapon quirks, abstract physical modification to a main weapon that affects its basic function and look. You only get 1 permanent quirk at a time unless you take the same weapon twice, in which case you get 2. You can get temp quirks in combat through the jury rigging maneuver, which we'll go over on page 61 when we get there. And you can change your quirks upon advancement. Nice, simple part there. And spells and abilities. Like we said earlier, the number of spells you know is determined by charm. It is charm -1. And your abilities are determined by your power level. Yeah. You can replace spells during advancement, gaining more spells when charm is raised or in place of additional abilities. For abilities, you pick 2 tier 1 abilities and gain more each power level advancement. Tier 2 spells and abilities are unlocked at power level 5, that's PL. Tier 3 at power level 8. The default range for spells is charm ×2, and the duration is defaultly 1 turn. Nice and simple. And abilities range is equivalent to your weapon range. So a lot of time for melee weapons, it's going to be in combat. But listen, if you're a cat boy made with a sniper rifle, maybe not the character that I was writing as I went through this, you have a longer range. Actually, you know what character I thought of when I was going through this? Have you ever seen that Vine of like the guy dressed in like a cat girl maid outfit? And he's like, welcome to Cat Cafe, where we're cuter than kittens. I'm Braden, the diversity hire. And then his roommates walk in. Have you ever seen that video?
Mm-mm.
That's the guy I would play for this. I'd be a magical
Braden?
girl cat boy. A cat boy maid named Braden with a sniper rifle. And it would be a fucking blast. I'd have a great time playing that character.
Oh, we need to just do back-to-back games of like Daisy Chainsaw's Magical Girls and Perils and Princesses and like, one thing you said this numerous times. We're gonna say it as we continue to go through. It's so tight. This game is so clean all the way through. It definitely checks tons of boxes for me in the style of game that I enjoy. And enjoy reading and would like to play, of just everything makes sense. There's no fiddly bits. Like it's been carved down to what's necessary, and which in my opinion allows a lot more freedom versus the opposite.
I super agree. I think the ability to like have a tight system and like it just be a tool set for decision making instead of telling you everything you possibly do obviously opens up a lot of doors for you to make weird shit happen in your game. And I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think advancement's next, right?
Yeah.
So advancement's cool. Teams off the bat start at power level 1, shortened to PL. And it's very much like milestone advancement. It's not XP gain. And you go from power level 1 to 10. And what's really cool about this page, other than the fact I really like the colors and the use of color on this page, is that every power level, it tells you exactly what you get. So at power level 1, you begin with 2 tier 1 abilities and 6 points towards your stats. Power level 2, You gain one tier 1 ability, so on and so forth. It's just nice not to have the question to know exactly what you get. And I just think visually, everything about this book is really good. You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's laid out super clean and well too.
Yeah.
Like it's not 2-column. I mean, we're just gonna beat the shit out of 2-column forever. It can be done really well. It has been
I
done
like
really well.
2-column fine. I mean, I get your complaints with it, but yeah.
I mean, when it's done well, I'm fine with it.
Totally.
I just don't. I love the way that they did it in this though, because I think we said the same thing about, I think Wolfwald, where like the font doesn't have to be tiny. Every page has room to breathe. None of it feels crowded. There's room for the pixel art, you know. And like you said, the color on this page, like the nice rainbow color, it says advancement, but I thought Game Boy Advance every fucking time I flip past this, because the logo, I don't know, some reminds me of it a little bit too.
I can kind of see it.
Yeah. But it's a great page.
Great piece of art coming up for this character example.
Yeah, Andromeda. Yeah, she's cool.
Yeah. Really
with
cool.
The guitar with like blood on it. Yeah, she obviously beat the shit out of somebody with, you know.
Yeah. Moving on. Oh, we get to the weapons section. Okay.
Woo.
Let's go over a weapon. Ryan, what weapon do you want to go over?
Oh, I don't.
I'm making you.
Well, we never read through the list of the weapons. Let's run through the list of the weapons first, so that people have the list.
Scroll back up.
I got it. It says we got a baseball bat, brass knuckles, chainsaw, gun. Did I write hat? I don't think hat is.
Hat? Yeah, hat's a great one.
Katana, knives, microphone, roller skates, and a whip. Is it really hat? Did I just put a period there, or did I fuck that up?
It's really hat.
No, it is hat. It is hat. Cool. I put a period in there.
And I was familiar. You get familiar with hat.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, then that's obviously, but that makes sense. I mean, obviously chainsaw. I mean, if we're gonna get down to,
we have to go over chainsaw. Chainsaw.
The game's called Daisy Chainsaw.
I mean,
did you listen to Daisy Chainsaw while you were reading Daisy Chainsaw?
I did not. So.
Oh man, you didn't get the Riot Girl experience, man.
No,
Come on.
you're right. I've messed up in this situation.
You did. You done fucked it up.
Gun's really good too, but I do love the chainsaw one.
Well, and as we're scrolling through this too, I do want to say there is a magical girl art, like gorgeous, fucking stunning pixel art for every one of these. So like the baseball one, for example, is this girl with long hair in like purple tights and like a purple like crop top and a purple skirt holding a baseball bat covered in blood. And it's fantastic. You know, and then moving on to, I mean, even within baseball still, there is another girl in a pitcher's pose with a pitcher's outfit. But every weapon has one or two pieces of pixel art. So great, because there hasn't been a ton of art to this point, but it definitely picks up here like crazy for all of these.
I forgot to point out in the original weapon list that we just read, they have a little like short blurb under each one, and the one for chainsaw is a distant revving sound, and I just thought it's a funny description.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, and the chainsaw girl art here is great too. Like a green, big, puffy dress, you know, covered in blood, big pink ponytails, and then just a chainsaw covered in blood. So talk to me about the chainsaw.
No, you talk to me about it. You pick chainsaw.
Okay. All right. I got it. So
Tell me about
chainsaw.
it.
So every weapon, we talked about this before, you said, as Hunter said, you get two weapons. You get a primary weapon and a secondary weapon, or a main hand weapon and an offhand weapon. So, and then you pick one of the primary stats. So it says heart, and then the alt is power. I do like that in the list above it listed the two stats, but in the actual 3-page stat block for your weapon, because it's such an important part of your character, it does list a primary stat and then what I believe is like the alternate stat to use for it, right? So for this one, for chainsaw, it's heart and power. And then in all of the weapons, you get a couple of things. You get a trait, you get the quirks you can choose from, and then you get a list of tier 1 abilities, tier 2 abilities, and tier 3 abilities. So for chainsaw, the trait is dismember. I'm shocked. It says certain abilities can dismember an opponent permanently, crushing one of their body parts, limbs, tentacles, or otherwise. Any ability that crushes a body part will instead dismember. And then the quirks you can choose from, there's 4 here. We'll pick one. There's semi chisel, there's anti kickback, there's lumberjack, and there's big teeth. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking big teeth.
I was thinking big teeth too. So your chainsaw is made, with dude. I'm just saying, my chainsaw would definitely be just like a chainsword. She just has like to start as chainsword. Your chainsaw is made with resplendent monster teeth. Enemies within range equal to your power level are bewitched towards you every time you dismember an enemy. That's dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
And then you get a list of tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3's abilities. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5. I think there's 5 in each. Yeah, there's roughly 5 in each. So let's pick. Like, you want to do one of each? I mean, I feel like we have to.
You gotta pick Daisy Chainsaw.
First of all, it's the biggest font on the page. Is it a bigger font? No, it's all caps. That's why it looks a little different. But obviously, you have to pick the one that's the name of the game. It's like that Leo. It's like that Leo meme where he sits up in the chair and is like pointing.
Oh yeah, he's like, whoo.
Yeah.
What's
So
that
Daisy.
Is that?
It's the some Tarantino bullshit fucking hack.
Once upon a time in Hollywood.
Sure.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure that's it. It says Daisy Chainsaw is harm. Your favorite flower grows from the cuts and damage done with this attack, entangling your target for rounds equal to your heart. Blood splatters from the enemy in a burst equal to your power level, spreading the flowers and causing a tangle to anyone in the burst for 1 round. Once again, it is such a clean, light system, right? Where you can easily create these abilities and quirks and powers and things by literally just going, yes, it's your heart plus your charm times your magic plus this. And you're like, oh, I totally get it because there's only 4 and they're easy numbers. And it does for 1 round for like 2 times your heart for distance. Like, it's so nice to not have any calculations, basically. You're just like, oh, it does charm, so 3 and this and that. All of them are like that too. They're very clever. They're very interesting, but they're super easy to track. So tier 2, what are you thinking? We got carving, come and get it, knee chopper, spare gas can, and tear through.
I don't know. I did not read these as deeply, honestly. I was very zoned into gun and hat when my read through.
I'm gonna go tear through. So you don't stop just because they're dead. I think there's a typo there. It says they're THEIR instead of THEYRE. Am I dumb? No, they are dead. Yeah, that's a typo there. Once you cut through something, you continue to cut through an adjacent enemy, dealing excess harm from a lethal attack with no roll. So basically, tear through is cleave. This is your cleave with your chainsaw, which is great.
Love it.
And then tier 3, Chain NATO, Daisy Chainsaw Deluxe. Yeah. Chain NATO is insane. The Hedge Trimmer, the Lumberjack Special, and the Revan Parry. So obviously we have to do Chainsaw Deluxe, Daisy Chainsaw Deluxe, right? But if not, then obviously Chain NATO. The Daisy Chainsaw Deluxe is a passive ability that requires Daisy Chainsaw. Love when you can stack your abilities, right? It upgrades the Daisy Chainsaw ability to inflict harm to the target equal to your primary harm and inflict harm equal to your secondary to all within the burst. It's dope. You cut something up, it grows your favorite flower, and then you get like burst abilities and stuff. It's dope. So that's how the weapons work. That's how every single weapon in the game. How many did we go through on the list? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9. And all 9 basically get a 3-page spread because of this is basically how your characters, like your weapons really dictate your entire character. Was there anything really special about hat or gun that you wanted to go over?
I mean, not in the way that like it's any more better or anything than anything else. It's just like there's a sense of humor that runs through these that like makes you enjoy reading them. Like gun has for one of its abilities, it's tier 2 quirk.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 23.
Okay.
It just has big fucking gun. And on the tier 3 ability is an even bigger fucking gun. And it's just, it's funny. You know, you read through it and you're like, you know, it's enjoyable to go through. There's a sense of humor throughout this, which is good. I mean, this is a great game to have a sense of humor about, you know?
Yeah. I mean, everything is literally like all these cute girls, and then everything is just covered in blood. Yeah. And like every page has these pixelated blood splatters and stuff, and it is fun. But yeah, you're right. Like the Mad Hatter underneath the hat stuff, like it's like you said, it's very cute. It's very funny. It all fits extremely well. Yeah, big fan. So we're gonna cruise through the weapons. The
But
knives
you should go
one.
through them, you, the listener, yourself, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of really funny stuff. It's really good. Like this is like Ryan said, like how your character is made, and so many of these quirks are like look like so much fun to use and would be so satisfying to use. And they're just clever. It's a well written game.
Yeah, it really is. I have to say though, I do there. Oh, is there no? Oh no. Okay, I was gonna say there's no primary art for the hat one because the hat familiar trait is so long that there's no room for it. But there is some on the next page. I do want to say though, I do think. I mean, the microphone one is very cute, but she's wearing all black and I'm a piece of shit. So, like, that's what gets it. But I do think that the knives one might be my favorite art for all of them. The girl is literally just, like, juggling cleavers in her face. Like, you can't even see the details on her face because it's so covered in blood. I love that piece of art so much. It's one of my favorite pieces in the entire game. But yeah, it's great. All right, so we're done through weapons. Do you want to pick up spells,
Sure.
or you want me to keep going?
I mean, I can pick up spells. We're not going to go through a ton of them. There are, in fact, spells. I'll read a little blurb, though. Every MC can feel the thrum of magic in their veins. Spells are inherently known to the MCs and range from small pieces of magical power to massive disruptions that change the scope of the fight. MCs with at least 2 charm are able to understand the spells they know. That's right. You have to have 2 charm because it's charm -1. So you have to have at least 2. Yeah, there are spells, and they're fun. Let's see. You want to pick tier 1? I'll pick tier 2.
Sure. So in tier 1 we got Blow Kiss, Cure, Emergency, Eyes on Me, Fairy Bolt, Falling Star, Force Field, Grasping Vine, Mark, Metamorphosis, Shield, and Slow. I'm gonna go with let's go with Blow Kiss because I love a nice nested list. It says it's a utility spell. You blow a kiss in the direction of a target within range equal to your charm, applying 1 random status effect for 1 round. And then there's a d6 list for the status effects you could give. And then it's Invoke, Aflame, Entangle, Poison, Bewitch, and Bolster. Those are the static effects that you can pass out with your blown kiss. So, smooch, your bewitching smooch, you know?
Hey, all my smooch is bewitching.
Yep. Right.
Yeah, tier 2, we have After Image, Blink, Glitter Bomb, Heal, Illusion, Looking Glass, Megamorphosis, as opposed to Minimorphosis in tier 1, Poison Gas, Pretty Cure, Rescue, Soul Link, Stealth, and The Pit. It's kind of a boring one, but I really did like The Pit. Literally, you just like open up an endless chasm. Yeah. So up to 3 adjacent enemies fall into an endless pit. They may only escape if they can fly, teleport, or climb. It takes 2 actions to do so. You can just fucking open up a hole to the center of the earth under them, and they just fall forever into it.
They're just gone.
It's fun that this is like a cute magical girl thing, but they're all covered in blood, and they're like opening pits to hell to just their enemies to drop into.
You know, as one does.
Yeah, very normal stuff. And then for tier 3, we have Fireball, Magic Mirror, Meteor Shower, Pixie Dust, The Power of Friendship, Resuscitate, Sanctuary, Skyfall, Withering Vines, and that's it. It feels that like tier 3 is shorter list. Maybe it's not. Maybe it just might be in my imagination. But I think we have to do for tier 3 The Power of Friendship.
Power of Friendship, yeah, obviously, yeah.
Because that's great. And also, we have a joke in my household where we'll call The Power of Friendship on stuff that we're watching when things happen, especially because we watch a lot of anime. And sometimes things just like work out and everyone gets a lot stronger suddenly. And it's like a friendship moment. I'm like, that's the power of friendship right there. So Power of Friendship, you begin channeling a giant orb of energy from the tip of your weapon, casting light across the battlefield, beckoning your allies to join. At the end of the round, inflict harm equal to power to enemies within a burst equal to primary. Harm dealt is multiplied by the number of allies who join the spell with their last action on their turn. Their charm is added to the total harm done. You can genuinely do insane damage with this one. Also, I love it's like magical girls. You know, they all shape up and hold out their weapons, and massive energy ball flies at the enemy. I think it's a great spell.
Yeah, it's dope. It's dope. I mean, a lot of them are fantastic. You know.
And this is a cool page coming up.
Yeah.
The AoE example. So this is example for every kind of like area of effect spell. So you have the 3-length cone, 3-length cone diagonal. I'm not gonna read them off, but they're here, and it's a really great utility for something that's grid based, but that frankly is like mostly narrative. Like there isn't like it is a grid based combat system, but like you're doing a lot of magical girl stuff, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It is nice to have that. Where did I think I'm ahead in my notes of where I thought I was. Yeah, I am. Yeah. Do you want to do the team, or you want me to pick up the team?
Feel free to pick up the team.
Okay, so there's a section here. It talks about the team, and it basically just says that the team is the name for the group of magical girl MCs, right? And it could be an actual team, like a baseball team. It's basically like why are you all together? Are you in a sorority? Are you in a club? You just a bunch of friends, or you all joined a baseball team together? Like whatever. Like that is, you figure out the team. And then we get to, and it's a great piece of art in the background. They put together a lot of the art pieces from the weapon section, like the knives girl that I'm a fan of, mixed with the chainsaw girl and stuff like that here. It's great. It's a great page, full page here. Then we get to the mascot. So you're going to roll up a mascot for me. So have your D6s ready, but I do have questions about the mascot. So basically, the way the mascot works is it is important to the team for a ton of reasons. It is the source of all the powers. It simply it's drawn to you because you have powers, and sometimes the mascot may be the very thing that led you in whatever way to gaining your powers in the first place. But yeah, so you roll 4d6 for a mascot, and you do a d6 for origin, purpose, look, and attitude. All right. So what do we got?
So the origin of my mascot, it's from outer space. The purpose, Eldritch agenda.
Obviously,
it's me. Look, alien. Also, obviously, really falling in well here. And 2, its attitude's friendly.
Oh, cold would have been fantastic. But here's my issue. I think that's great. I think that's super cute and everything. What the fuck is a mascot, right? Like, I know because I've watched magical girl shit.
Right.
But for someone picking up this game, they're gonna be like, is this just some dude in a fucking fursuit that's like outside of like a store? Like, what is you know what I mean?
That
like,
is true. I've seen a lot of anime. I mean, it's not just magical girl anime. A lot of animes have a little small mascot character. So I'm
Dan has the fucking grandma in the fucking bear with the, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Right. We understand that, right? And I understand that this is, geared towards people that know what magical girl anime is. But for people that don't, like, if I gave this to, like, Kaylee or something, she'd be like, I don't know what fucking clue what a mascot is. You know what I mean? Like, that would, it's just, I think a little bit of clarification to be like, it's probably a pet. It's a random animal. It's a bear. Like,
it's a cat with a moon symbol on its forehead.
Exactly. There's a ton of examples in the book. It would have been nice to have one here, I think, because it just... If you don't know, if you're not a big anime watcher or anything like that, I feel like you might get lost here, not knowing kind of what the mascot is supposed to be.
Yeah, that's probably fair. But also, if you're not a big anime watcher, you're a fucking nerd. Get cool.
Yeah, listen, nerds are cool now. For the past decade, I say that as if it hasn't been this way for the past fucking decade, right? Millennials, in our stunted childhood with our inability to advance because of what boomers left the world to be, we got adult money and then relived our childhoods, So
you're getting adult money?
Bro, I do get it. Okay, so combat. So we're gonna get more into the kind of rules of the game. So there's a whole combat chapter, which is I think probably the biggest chapter in the game. And then this is gonna take up the bulk of the rest of the book. Yeah. There is like a 1-page thing for pushing your limits in the DM guide. So these are the core rules of the game we're gonna hop into here now. and dig a little deeper into the way that they work. So combat happens in turns and rounds. Hey, guess what? It's a TTRPG. It's just like all the other ones. The initiative is really interesting, though. I think the closest initiative I remember to this would be Death in Space. And I remember reading the Death in Space initiative and being like, I don't know about that. And then we played the Death in Space initiative, and it was really fucking cool. So that's basically how this works. And I'm talking slow and stalling because I want Hunter here, and he ran away for a second, to talk about this, because this is something I do want to discuss. So I'll read it now. So initiative, you roll dice equal to your primary ability. Everyone does. And you count the hits against the highest initiative value of the enemies, right? So you roll, say your highest ability is charm and you have 3, you roll 3 dice, and the initiative value against the biggest bad on the field is 4. You have to roll equal to or under 4, and the most hits gets to go first, and then you go ordered by that way. And if there's ties, it goes to focus for breaking the stat. It's an interesting way. Like when I first read it, I was like, this feels like a lot of rolling to just do initiative, to have to like roll and then do your hits and then find the initiative value and then do all your stuff. But I do enjoy the way it works, because what goes after that, basically it says most hits go first. I was explaining initiative and the hits versus the bad guy. So the most hits goes first. If no hits, the DM chooses an enemy to go. But say you roll enough to get a hit and you get to go first. Whoever acts chooses who acts next. But if you choose an ally, an enemy has to go after that. So you can never do 2 allies in a row. Well, you can theoretically do 2 allies in a row, but you can't pick 2 allies in a row. If you do ally after you, it has to be an enemy. And then you go from there, except that all power level 0 baddies, the cannon fodder, they act as a group if they're like next, if they're adjacent, right? So I was saying that this is the closest thing to Death in Space initiative that I've read before, because Death in Space initiative does that. The difference is in Death in Space, you can pick all of your allies in a row if you want, but then you get fucked because all the enemies get to go in a row, right?
Yeah. So there's no breaking up that kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so I really like this. I think, like I said, when I first read it, I thought that I thought it was a little clunky, or it might take a little bit of time to do everyone rolling basically to hit against the highest initiative value, the bad guy. But it makes sense, and I really do like the pick and choose initiative. What do you think of it?
I overall am I feel pretty positive about this. You know, I mean, everyone's going to roll initiative anyway in most other traditional games. So it's like, yeah, everyone's rolling to hit. But like, I trust the people around me to be able to count their own hits on their dice without me needing to look over their shoulder. So yeah, I feel like this is cool. I also really do love the picking the next person to go kind of thing, like the Death in Space thing. I like this. And I also like that it forces like you to break it up. Like it can't just be all allies. Like if you pick an ally, it has to be an enemy afterwards. Like I think that's an interesting way, because it keeps you from bulldozing immediately, you know? I think this works great. I would love to do this.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting. I like it better than just like base initiative. I mean, my favorite initiatives are something clever like this, or I don't give a fuck, just go. Yeah, Troika stack. I'll forever say, I think the Troika stack might be the most interesting idea.
It's such a cool idea.
Yeah, I just don't want to do it in person.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, it's very clever. I think it just might be too clever. I like the initiative. I think it's really interesting. So that's basically, it says here combat. It goes combat consists of stuff like that, and it goes from there. The next section is a section about moving. I missed some stuff. So actions here. So MCs and enemies get 2 actions per turn. And those actions are attack, maneuver, move, or use an ability or spell. One thing I'd also noticed here, if you're going to give me a list of things and then give me a list explaining those things, just put it in the same order. Yeah. You know, this is the second time in the book. It says attack, maneuver, move, or use an ability or spell. And then it lists it in move, attack, and then status effects, which gives you maneuvers and stuff, and then abilities and spells. So I'm like, if it's move, attack, just do move and attack in the list at the top. I don't know. It's like, it's not a big fucking deal, but it's the second time they switch the order. But it's whatever. So
I like the action economy of games where you have two actions and that's not forced movement. Like movement can be an action. Inherently moving is an action, but you can choose to forego that and use that instead of just forgoing movement and then just getting to do one thing. You can do
Yeah.
two things. I really, really appreciate and enjoy that in games that I play.
Yeah, well, and the cool thing about that too is oftentimes that allows you to attack twice or move twice,
Yes.
and which equates to like a dash, which is cool.
Right.
I also do really like that for the most part, this game, the bad guys and the good guys work the same, which it's nice to not have to learn a whole different way to run bad guys if you already know how to run the good guys. Which really makes it where anyone could really GM if they wanted to. You know what I mean? You're not learning anything new than besides what you already know.
Really, if you've played this game as a player, you can GM it.
Yeah, it's really nice. So first we get to move, and in moving, you spend an action to move, and it's in 5-foot increments. It's grid combat, and we've said this before. You move equal to your speed, which is your focus stat plus your primary stat, right? So an MC with 3 focus and 2 charm, which is a primary stat, has 5 speed, so 25 feet. There you go. Rough terrain is a -2 to your speed, which ends up being 10 feet short. And then if focus is your primary stat, you get to add it twice.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I'm super focused.
Yeah. Which is nice. So if you do, say, if you have a really low, say you put like 1 in focus and your primary is high, you're not gonna be able to move as far, but that double focus is what's up. Next we get to attack. So the way attacks work, your basic attack is, we've talked about this numerous times. This is the 3rd time we're going to go over this, not in a bad way. I think every time we've talked about it has been a good way to go over it.
I think it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So a basic attack is an action, and it's rolling it's rolling a number of dice equal to your primary stat, equal to or less than the number of your secondary stat, and that is the number of hits that you do. And the hits that you do is the same number of harm that you inflict. So if you do 3 hits, you hit 3 harm. Again, this game is so clean. I love it.
Very easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Also, I love a dice pool game, and I love a clever dice pool game. This is not how I've written the dice pool game that's not out. This is not how a lot of dice pool games work, but it works really well. It's very clever. A roll under to hit dice pool game determined by your secondary stat. Very cool.
I would steal the fuck out of this mechanic. It's so good. The other thing too, though, is what was I gonna say? Fuck. I'm not on my my Adderalls, and I keep losing my train of thought today. Nope, it's gone. Something about hits and attacks and stuff, and I lost it. So I was hoping it would come back. It didn't. So that is how attacks work. An MC's ability to attack at range depends on the weapon traits. There is an example here. It talked about MC doing a basic attack against an enemy. The primary stat is 4, and then they have a bonus die from a previous invoke maneuver, whatever. Let's not worry about that. No. Yes, 4, and then their secondary stat is 3, and they roll like 1, 2, 2, 3. So that's 4 hits, and they reroll the 1, so they get like 5 hits. That's basically what it is. It's super clever. It's super interesting. Oh, this is what I was going to say. I really, really love, and there's not a ton out there, but when I can find them, they're really great, are rules like tactical narrative games, which feels like an oxymoron, but it's not. But this is one of them where you can just... Like I just play tested Cryodracus with Marco yesterday, and he's working on something that's like it's rules light, but there's like fun narrative actions and spaceships and stuff. Greenhorns reminds me of that just a little bit, which is a down we go thing. But this specifically, like I really love the tight tactical aspects of it, but being rules light so that the narrative can take over.
Totally.
Yeah. So going forward from there, we get into a cool little piece here of the baseball bat girl beating the shit out of like a flying creature. It's got stars around its head. So moving into status effects here. So static effects are ongoing conditions or modifiers, most commonly from maneuvers and abilities. They're counted by round, not turn. That's important, especially when we get to bosses later. And harm and saving throws are taken at the beginning of the round before the first turn. This is a question I was going to ask later.
Okay.
because it comes up later, but might as well ask it now. The actual words in the book are status effects are counted by round, not by turn. Harm and saving throws for afflictions are taken at the beginning of each round. Which one comes first?
Ooh, I it's funny. I had a very similar thought when I was reading this, but I'm of the opinion I like to leave some stuff up to the table. Like I don't want everything to be hardline. So how do you feel like it should work at your table? I feel like the harm and saving throw happening first is more beneficial to the players because the effect wears off.
The harm and saving throw, yeah, the harm and saving throw. Oh, so you're saying the harm before the saving throw?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yes.
Because the harm and saving throw happens before anything else. Before the first turn, before anything, beginning of the round, it happens. And because it comes up with bosses later, and I was like, well, what comes first? Do you save against the harm so you don't take the harm that round, or do you take the harm and then save, and then it goes on from there? And it really, I guess it's like if you want to be like extra nice or not, because I would definitely do harm and then save against it.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah, you said you would too.
Yeah, I would, but
yeah,
I'm rethinking after we've said it out loud how I would actually do that because I read this, and you know me. I always think about games better and understand them better after we talk about them. But yeah, I might do saving throw first. So
yeah, it's a question I have for the designer is like if there is a order you do want that in, it does come up a couple of times without an explanation of because if there is an effect that would give you harm and you can save from it, do you take the harm before you save, or do you save to not take the harm that round? It's up in the air. So that's how static effects work. And then we get to maneuvers, which is one of the ways that you can commonly get these ongoing conditions and stuff. So there are a number of maneuvers, and it takes an action, and some spells and abilities use them, and any effects are considered status effects. So there are assist, bolster, invoke, jury rig, and protect are the options here.
We should read jury rig because it has to do with something we've referenced already.
Right. Okay. So jury rig, whether you're channeling magic from the heart or tinkering with a bad idea, jury rig allows you to modify your weapon temporarily, add another quirk to one of your weapons until you are reduced to half HP. Which is the way that you can get temporary quirks as opposed to the primary quirk, or if you take two weapons, having the two primary quirks. The other one that's kind of important, I mean, they all are. Bolster, invoke, they've all been brought up, is the assist one, because through encouraging words or active assistance, you grant an ally additional die to their next roll, whatever it may be. But you can assist when people are down to 0 HP to stuff. We'll get to that later, but that is a thing that comes up. There's the maneuvers you can do. The next is the afflictions. The afflictions are harm from afflictions taken at the beginning of the round. MCs and bosses. So harm from the affliction is taken at the beginning of the round. MCs and bosses can roll to resist afflictions when they are first applied. Ooh. And you'll see saving throws on 64. We'll get to that. And it is hyperlinked, which is great. And you can save at the beginning of the round once for each affliction, right? But it still never says explicitly where if you take the harm before or not. MCs and bosses can resist when it's first applied, but then it specifically says they can save at the beginning of the round to get rid of an affliction once for each affliction. But it doesn't say harm first or not. The other thing is all other enemies cannot resist afflictions. If you're not an MC or a boss, if you get something would afflict you, you just are afflicted.
Perfect.
And at the beginning of each round, those afflicted non-boss MCs roll a d6, and on a 6, the effect ends. I like that. It's clever. It's clean to just be like, nah, you're fucked unless you you roll a 6 and then you're out. And you could because you can just be like, oh, those 4 dudes are 4d6s. Oh, nope, they're all not done yet. Like super clean. Like it's such an easy way to deal with the afflictions.
Very easy to manage. And yeah, I think I would say that at the beginning of turn, I'd let them save against the affliction before taking damage.
You would.
I would, yeah.
I would,
because I like my
do the
players and
other
I
one.
want them to have a good time. I mean, I think also me making a call like that is very dependent on the game that we're playing.
Yeah. Well, and the
this
table.
yeah, and the table. But yeah, I mean, I think the table and also the game. This is very much a magical girl MC anime game, and I want them to feel like they're cool, powerful girls with chainsaws. So I'd let them do that.
Yeah, it's very much a framing thing as far as like what you find joy in. Give me a 30-second rant here. I started doing keto again. It's been great. I lost 10 pounds in the last month.
Here we go.
and-
Some online influencer talking about keto.
Right. Vegan keto. It's been great. So, but I find joy in the process of trying to get my carbs down to nothing and like dialing in the macros and all that shit. I find joy from that because for me, food is enjoyable, but I don't get joy from food. Like I eat food because I'm hungry or I'm bored, but like it's not like a thing. But I know people who literally are like, I have joy from food. If I don't like, this is the thing that brings me actual happiness, the food and the eating it, and like all of that. I don't really get that. Like food is tasty, but it's fuel for me more than anything.
Yeah.
So it's very much like it's a mind frame and how you look at things, right? Hence the OSR. People are like, I don't get why people like games that are hard and stuff like that. It's the same thing with like soul stuff. Like, why do you want to play a game where you die a million times? It's the challenge of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't die a million times in most of the Souls games. That's just you fucking casuals.
Yeah.
Anyway. You can't give me an anyway after talking about keto, you online influencer.
There's nothing wrong. No, keto fucking works, obviously. But listen, my point is what I enjoy from games are games that are difficult and I'll die a bunch. So to do harm first makes sense for me and my perspective of what I enjoy about games. I'd rather have a game that would harm me first because I find that enjoyable. I like the harm and the risk of death and the low stats and stuff like that. But your framing of what you said, oh, of course, I mean, yes, there's only one right way, and it is your own personal worldview.
Yeah, especially of the two of us, my way.
Yeah, right. But your framing makes absolute sense for like a table, right? Of like, they're magical girls. Why wouldn't you give them every option to like save before hard? Like that makes so much sense. Anyway, that was my rant. So afflictions, we just talked about what happens. They get applied to you. There are a number of them. We get Aflame, Bewitch, Bleed, Crush, Entangled, Poison, Stun, and Taunt. These aren't super hard. We can go over a couple of them. Crush was interesting because we talked about Chainsaw. Anything that would apply Crush, if you're using your chainsaw, you also instead, it's like it's dismembered. The static effects only affect specific weapons, attacks, and body parts. The enemy is unable to use the crushed weapon, so you actually dismembered it. Or bleed, you suffer 1 harm, so that can be an ongoing thing, which is cool. Like bleed, literally that suffer 1 harm. It's 3 words to explain that affliction. I love how clean these are. Stun, cannot take any actions, like super easy. Bewitch, cannot take any offensive actions towards a target, but may take defensive and utility actions. They're just nice. They're clean. They're really easy. They're super straightforward. I really like them a lot. Then we get into abilities and spells. So the way these works, they each take 1 action, unless noted or labeled passive. We did talk about a passive one. The Daisy Chainsaw Deluxe was passive. It basically just like boosted the Daisy Chainsaw.
Correct.
Whenever you use an ability or spell, you accrue burnout points equal to the tier of the ability or spell. So if you're using a tier 2 spell, you accrue 2 burnout points. We'll get to burnout points later. There's a whole section on that. And then you are not required to roll unless you make the spell as a spell attack. And then each of the spells and abilities have a type. There's harm, defense, familiar, passive, and utility. And we saw those earlier when we were reading through the spells and things like that. Each one was listed as a type. And then all ranges for spells and abilities are 5-8 increments. And last a number of turns from when the MC used it. They have a default range double to the caster's charm and a duration of 1 turn. And the abilities share the range with the weapon. So we talked about AoE stuff a little bit earlier. You showed the page of I mean, that was a single page. It could have just been tossed here, I guess. Well, why did we do it earlier? Oh, because it was with the spell list. It was with the spell list. Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense. Yeah.
That's a fine place for it.
Yeah. The areas effect options here, we got Aura, Burst, Line, and Cone. We're not going to read those because you've probably played a game before.
Also,
Guess
they're in the book.
Yeah.
So
Guess what a line is. Next we get to saving throws. This is interesting. So we talked about this a little bit with the spell part before. So when an MC or boss is at risk of an affliction, they get to make a saving throw, nobody else, right? And you roll power against your focus. When I say that, I mean you roll, primary number of dice at or below focus number to get your hits, right? And if hits are equal to or exceed the hits that caused the affliction, the effect is prevented. You don't have to do that. So if someone hit you with 3 hits to give you an affliction, you have to get 3 or more hits to stop it from happening to you. But if the affliction is not from a roll, you save against the power level of the source. So whatever did its power level. Clean.
yeah, absolutely. Another example of this game just being like a tight game that makes a lot of sense, and you don't have to think super hard about the mechanics.
Harm pool. So your harm pool is equal to 3 times your heart. And you may opt. So questions here about this. We'll get to the end of this. So you may opt to avoid a single killing blow per episode by taking a permanent scar. Dope. If you do that, you immediately push your limits. You push limits, and you suffer no harm. So you take a scar, you suffer no harm, and then you roll to push limits. And we'll get to that in a second. The scar is forever visible while you're transformed and may or not be visible while you are mundane, while you are not transformed. Right?
You go into your high school, and one of the girls in your high school, your Japanese high school, has a big scar across her face.
Yeah. So you can get knocked out if you surpass your harm pool. So if your harm pool's 4 and you go to 5, you're knocked the fuck out, right? Enemies tend to ignore knocked out MCs. You must be tended with an assist maneuver within 3 turns or you die. So there's no saving throws or anything. It's just someone has to get to you. And then an assisted ally stays unconscious but recovers 1 HP when the encounter ends. So here's my question. This is a clarification question I have about this. So the way it seems, maybe it's different, maybe it's deeper with the beasties and the monsters and stuff. If you surpass your harm pool, you get knocked unconscious. But in the paragraph above that, it says MCs may opt to avoid a single killing blow per episode. What is a killing blow? Because from what I understand from the harm pool, is if you surpass it, you just get knocked out, and then you can get saved with an assist. So I'm not sure what the killing blow would be unless there is like an enemy in the book that specifically says, hey, this is a killing blow, right? So I don't know what the clarification is here for that. And yeah, Hunter, what do you think? Oh, just one second. So yeah, so I'm not sure about that. We'll go to the burnout pool real quick and talk about that. So measure of the teams. Your burnout pool is a measure of your team's stress, exertion, exhaustion, magical exhaustion, all that stuff all mixed together. And you get burnout points, right, that accumulate as MCs cast spells or harm abilities at a value equal to the tier the spell or ability is. That's what we said before. So you do a tier 2 spell, it's 2 burnout points, right? And your burnout points accumulate with the spells and abilities, and then there is a soft cap to the burnout pool, right? And you can exceed it. So there's a chart here. So at power level 1 as a team, you have 10 burnout points. And then it goes from 1 to 10. It basically, it adds 2 every time. So it goes 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22. And then it changes from there, 26, 30, 34, right? That's how many burnout points you can get before things start to go bad for you. And what does that mean? It means that if you pass the soft cap of your burnout pool, then when using spells or abilities, you roll 1d6 plus 1 for each point exceeding the pool. On a 6, the action fails, and you take 1 harm. So that's a big deal if you decide to pass the burnout pool. And as I said, here's a burnout pool chart. So fun. So a question that I had was the harm pool issue that I have here. It says MCs may opt to avoid a single killing blow per episode, right, with a permanent scar, right? But then the very next paragraph says once you surpass your harm pool, you're knocked out. So what would a killing blow be then? If you could just get knocked out once you pass your HP? Oh, there's like I think there's a.
Yeah, there's a little bit of disconnect in the language there. I assume it's what they mean is like getting down to 0.
Yeah, but then you just get knocked out. Why would you take a scar and not just get... I mean, I guess that's a possibility, but like there's a big difference between saying killing blow and knocked out. So I'm curious. I think it's just a clarification thing. I can't remember anything in the book that would explain it better to be like, that's a killing blow, that's not, you know? So we'll see. That was just something that came out. There's another great piece of art on the bottom of that too, of the chainsaw girl, like with a chainsaw with hearts all over it. Coming down at like this eyeball, this floating eyeball thing with a sweat drop on it. So we're almost done actually. So we have. I know
this book is it feels very condensed, you know?
Yeah, it's great. Then we get Push Your Limits. I will say Push Your Limits has a title header on it. As does weapons, as does combat and stuff like that. It's not in the table of contents though for its own thing. I know it's only like 1 page long, but so that's one thing that I thought was missing is that this is not in the table of contents as a hyperlink thing to get to. So pushing your limits. How does this work? It does not require an action, but must be done during your turn. So as we said, if you do take a scar, you roll to push your limits, right? And what is it? Sometimes your best just isn't good enough, and that happens, and you're facing down a horde of enemies. Your power, magic, and adrenaline mix together into something more potent, and you push your limits, right? It's explanatory. So there are requirements and benefits to doing it. So there are 3 possible requirements, right? There's outnumbered, almost dead, or burnout. We talked about the burnout one already. Outnumbered means far more enemies than you. Almost dead means you're down to like 1 HP. And then you can push your limits. One of those things, you have to meet one of those requirements, right? And then I don't know if you saw that it took me 2 reads because then it says this effect lasts 3 turns. At the start of your turn, you may forego one of the beneficial effects in order to extend the duration by 1 turn.
I was waiting for us to go over this because I read it through the first time. I was like, I don't know what this is. I'm going to go for it.
Right. So here's the thing. The way, for those that can't see it, outnumbered, almost dead, burnout, and then harder to hit harder, and second wind are all bolded. And then all the words after them look all exactly the same. So it looks like the requirements are outnumbered, almost dead, burnout, harder to hit harder, and second wind. Which makes no sense because as I read it, I'm like, 3 of those don't feel like requirements, right? What I have decided what it means is the first 3 are the requirements. The second 3 are the benefits that you get when you push your limits, but there's nothing that says benefits, right? There's just that there's one kind of partial line between burnout and then the benefits of the explanations, but it never uses the word benefits anywhere. So if you meet the requirements, say you are outnumbered, you get, I guess all 3 of these effects, which this is not explained.
Returns.
Yeah, it's an interesting section. Like, I obviously understand how it works now that we're reading it, but like, this was towards the end of my night when I was reading this, and when there wasn't a break there, I just read each line, and I was like, wait, these are different things. But yeah, I guess you get all 3.
Yeah, well, you would have to, right? Because you would get harder to hit, which means attacks against suffer -2 to primary. Hit harder, you attacks gain +2 primary, and then second wind, your abilities do not accumulate burnout points, and you don't have to roll for failure when passing the burnout pool. Great. And then above that, this effect lasts 3 turns, which means push your limits lasts 3 turns.
Right.
At the start of your turn, you may forego one of the beneficial effects in order to extend the duration by 1 turn. So my assumption is you must get all 3, because then you get all 3 for 3 turns, and then you can sack one to extend it. But does that mean then you can sack a second one to extend it again and a third one to extend it again? This, I honestly think Push Your Limits needs like another half a page of explanation, because there's no breakup between requirements and benefits, and there's nothing that says you get all 3 of these, you take 1. Like, unless I completely missed Oh, it also says pushing your limits requires at least 2 of the following to be true, but it never says you take all 3, anything. Like there's no explanation really of like how many benefits you get if you get all 3, if you can technically extend by 3 turns by getting a 1/1/1, or if you can only do it once. This needed another half a page, I think, in my opinion, to explain this a little bit more effectively. And then we get to the DM guide. Do you want to do that, or do you want me to just like bounce around it real quick?
I mean, there's some cool stuff in here. I read through this like lightly. I like the idea. I mean, I'm not necessarily going to read through this, but I really do like the focus on like creating an overarching narrative, like a season of a show, and taking the big bad evil person's plan and breaking those plans up to functional small parts, and those being the episodes that your characters are trying to like overcome. I thought that was a really great structure for how to build this your like adventure for this.
Well, yeah, I mean, episodes in a season.
Yeah.
And then the season arc is against like one primary antagonist. It's fucking first of all, it's perfect for anime, right? That's how it works. But that's perfect for TTRPGs too, to just be like every session is an episode. I mean, and all the episodes build towards one primary antagonist, and then that's the season finale, you know?
It's funny because I was reading this and Abigail's watching The Ghost Whisperer with Jennifer Love Hewitt, but it has the same model. Like there is an overarching, actually, she's talking to Ghost at first, and then it becomes this like there's an overarching bad thing happening that she's working against. I'm like, this is exactly what I'm reading right now. It's just a really good format, and like, when you say it out loud, it seems like a very obvious format, but it's good to have here written. I mean, it's always good to have those things written down in front of you.
It's great.
But I liked the emphasis on like always escalating. Like stakes are always raising. Think like a cartoon villain, and I really liked the example antagonists in this too. I thought they were really fun, cool setups for like an adventure.
Yeah, they're great. So yeah, in this section you get guidance on creating and running a season, creating an episode. There's a section on fighting strategies, which is like a weird kind of just like one paragraph tucked in for like crowd control, satisfaction, important, and stuff like that. It's a weird. I guess it's important in the DM guide, but I
think it was good advice after reading it, like how you should be treating. Like, I mean, I think it feels fairly obvious, but once again, but it's good to have there just in case you needed the idea. You know.
Yeah. There's a whole enemy section, and it talks about how the enemies work. That there are 5 stats. They just have power level, primary, secondary, harm pool, and initiative, and that's it. And then the power level of the enemy is basically their difficulty. So there's an example here of one that says the power level enemy. So a team of 3 MCs at power level 1 can reasonably handle 3 power level 1 enemies. It's pretty, again, enemies and MCs are basically the same thing, right? So it goes over how that stuff works, and it actually says enemies attack works just like an MC's attack, so that's cool. There's a whole section on enemy traits. You got a bunch of those. You got armored, big, elusive, fast, magic, range, strong, summoner. I like that. Little bit of like I was gonna say monster of the wiki, but it's anything. It's just like you can pick a monster type. Yeah. Then there are 2 other options: are the cannon fodder, which are the PL zeros, and then the enemy witches, which are basically MCs. You just build an MC and then fight against the MCs with it. So it's a little bit more fleshed out because they have stats and stuff, which is really cool. And then,
I love cannon fodder as like a concept for, especially for something like this, like literally just 0 level bad guys that they just like are a bunch of them and they just grind through.
Yeah, they're the putties. Yeah, well, I guess that's the magical girl.
That's exactly what I was thinking, though. I was thinking,
man, dude, I remember when Power Rangers like leveled up. Maybe it was after the ninja movie or whatever, but like the putties got like more powerful, and you couldn't beat them unless you hit the thing in the middle of their chest. I don't know, it was so ridiculous that like the putties have leveled up from cannon fodder to like level 1. Anyway, there's a whole page here on enemy stats. It gives you power level, primary, secondary HP, and initiative speed for 0 to 10. So if you're at power level 5, it tells you primary is 4, secondary is 3, HP 9, initiative speed 3. It's great. So you can literally just pick one you want, go through, throw a type on it, and you got enemies, and that's really great.
There's a bunch of
example enemies here that are really neat. Did you want to? I mean, Matilda the Gun Witch of the Warehouse District is. I mean, even just the names in them are dope. Izixix, Demon Lord of the Deep Dark Depths. Those are dope. And then that's the notes page, and that's the entire book.
We did it.
And then back cover's got blood on it. And then it doesn't have the writing from the back cover of the actual back cover, but it does have the blood splatter there. So that's the book. That was super fun. I feel like, man, we did good. I feel like the last 2 episodes is what we should have been doing for the last 100. Cruising a lot faster.
Well, you live and you learn.
Yeah, and then you get loves. So Days of Chainsaw. This is the book, 75 pages. So for those that don't know what the fuck we do here on the show, we do quantify our terrible opinions with metrics. We give them numbers, and for books, we give that 5 metrics, right? There's art and layout, usability, rule set, originality, and value. Art and layout is the art of the book, quality, quantity, usage. Layout is the visual layout of the book, how it looks, how it feels, whatever. Usability is how usable it is at the table or to read, right? So digitally, if it's got hyperlinks, bookmarks, inline hyperlinks, things like that. At the table, does it have bookmarks and stuff? But also, is the book itself laid out in a way that makes it easy to read, easy to parse? Is the information readily available to you when you need it if you're running the game? Rule set is the rules of the game. If it's an adapted rule set, how do we like it? If it's a unique rule set, how do we like it? Originality is, you know how to use a dictionary. It's originality. And value is bang for your buck. How much does it cost? And not only that, how much do you get for the money you spend? Are there extra adventures, third-party licenses, things like that? So art and layout, what are your initial thoughts?
I mean, I think we have spoke about the whole time. There's great amount of art in here. There's really great art. It's fun to look at. It very much fits the vibe. This book is very easy to read. There's a good balance of like using kind of a, the gray background with some pops of color here and there, but it not being so overwhelmingly colorful that it's too much. I feel really good about this. I thought it was a really readable book. I'd read it again.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think?
I read it 2 or 3 times. Do you feel really good about it, or?
I think I do. Yeah, I think I do.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we're probably around like a 7 for this.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Because I mean, I love the pixel art. Blood splatter, all of it, all the way through. It's really, really gorgeous.
What would make this an 8 for you?
I don't know. It's hard because like art and layout is like when we look at things like Warpland or Merkborg and stuff, those are like art punk books, right? Like they're very much like art is a primary focus of the entire game, which you don't need. I bet you we could find like a 9 in art and layout that has like 2 pieces of art in it, right? If the layout is just like stunning, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the layout is really good and really clean throughout this. I mean, honestly, I do really like the layout. I do really like the art. I don't know, what would make it an 8 for you?
I don't know. That's why I was asking you. I'm not really sure. So maybe more, I don't know, more art. I don't know. It's hard to say. There's a good amount of art.
There's a ton of art. There's art on almost every other page. And
I really do like the layout, and I like the headers. I like the font. I don't know, man. I actually might be leaning towards an 8 for this in art and layout.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, again, it's hard because, like, again, this is a subjective. This is subjective to us, right? If I was going to go towards 10, like, it would be like, let's make the background not white. Let's get some of those rainbow colors as background pages. That's pushing 9s and 10s for me. But I'd be good on an 8 for this. I mean, I don't
want the background pages to be super colorful. I like the fact it's on like a white gray, but I'm gonna call an 8 for this one. But feel free to disagree with me.
No, I'm good on that. I'll go 8 for this. I do really like it. I mean, we will say so comparatively. I think we gave an 8 to Swivers with David Hoskins' art and everything.
Okay. Okay, 7. You're right.
Okay. I do think it's just different, right? I do like the layout in this.
I don't know. I think I'm really at like a 7.5. You know what I mean? Like I'm so perfectly between an 8 and a 7. It's really hard for me.
Go 7. Usability. First of all, just the fact that it's spiral
Notebook,
bound,
dude.
bro. Just the fact that it's spiral bound for like use at the table, automatically bonus points for me. And then as far as digital tools, bookmarks, hyperlinks in the table of contents, inline hyperlinks, even within the pages themselves. When we hit like the creating a character page, they were giving you page reference numbers. All the weapons are linked to itself. I mean, the only more that you could ask for digitally would be the whole like link back to the table of contents from each page or each chapter heading section. I do think that the push your limits is missing a section in the table of contents, and there's room for it. But as far as usability goes, I mean, we said at the beginning too, this is a perfect way that we have found to enjoy books, which is what is this game, kind of, not in just like what is a TTRPG, like what is this game. This is the basic mechanic of the game, and then let's give you character creation and then stack all the rules. Perfect, in my opinion. I mean, I really enjoy the usability of this.
Okay, give me a number.
I'm probably at an 8 for this.
Okay, I'm fine with it. Yeah. I'll allow it.
You'll allow? Are you gonna put the number in if I say something different?
No, because you're the one typing. So
yeah, rule sets. Unique rule set. We talked about it.
Hey,
so
I am a dice pool guy, and this is such a cool riff on like the traditional dice pool. This number gives you a hit format, and I think it's reinforced throughout like how you use it. It all fits together incredibly well. You every kind of like mechanic as you go through really makes a lot of sense within the context of this system. I'm into it.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing: is you're a dice pool guy, and what's your second favorite?
My second favorite dice pool game?
No, second favorite type of mechanic for core.
Oh,
mechanic.
A D20 roll under.
Roll under. This is a dice pool roll under game.
I know, it's a dice pool roll under. That couldn't be better. So,
and I
also, love that interplay between the primary and secondary stat. You know, in other cases where you're like, you're going to roll your primary against a different stat or whatever. It's very cool.
Yeah. Well, and again, I love this. The rules like tactical narrative games. It is exactly where my brain is for TTRPGs anymore. And on top of that, it's all clean. It's a puzzle that fits together well, right? So like you have your 4 stats with 2 primary. You use the 2 primary stats to do your rolls. Your range, like all the derived things are based on your 4 primary stats, and then everything else, like the harm from hits uses stats for range, uses stats for speed. The speed is distance. Like it all fits together so well and flows together so well that like at the end of the day, if you weren't sure, it's probably what you think it is because it just makes sense. Yeah. You're like, why wouldn't speed just be this or that? You know what I mean? Like everything just fits so well. It's so clean. It's so tight. Like there's like, I don't think there's any edge cases in here based on the mechanics. Most of it's just clarification of things. But the way that the actual dice rolls and things work, I fucking love the shit out of it.
Me too.
I will say, I think under rule set, we do have to talk about the clarity of some of the things. I do think that the entire push your limit thing could probably use a whole nother page. I do think that a little bit of clarity around harm and save. I do think a little bit of clarity around like the kill shot versus knockout. Like I think there's just a couple of like lines missing that could clarify things just a little bit more. I think it's one of those things that might be like in the head and it makes sense, but like just didn't hit paper. So I do think that there are like, I do probably have like 2 or like 1 big question, like 2 or 3 small questions that do affect the game play. I do think that has to come into effect, but what are you thinking?
I don't know. I think if there was a lot of clarity, and there's a couple other places where I personally would have liked some clarity that we didn't really even talk about in the show. They're very small kind of edge cases, but like this could use like a solid whatever pass to clarify. But I'm thinking a 7, but with more clarity.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think 2 more pages worth of stuff in this book would really help completely clarify like any of the questions. And here's the thing too, is like with a game like this it's light, which allows for a lot of narrative stuff like that, but because the game is so tight, I don't like I know at one point you brought up like let the table decide. For this kind of game that is so like like it fits so well together. Having one or two things like that, where like feels
even more egregious just because it's everything else is so dialed in.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It feels much. So I'm good with the 7 on this, and then yeah, if there was just a couple more bits of clarity in here, I think it would be a pretty easy 8 for me. Originality. I mean, I'm sure there's magical girl stuff out there.
Not many tabletop games I know of, though.
No, not that I know of. Is there a what's so great about magical girls? Like, is there that what's so great about like rule set hack set? There might have been one like that. There might have been one like that, and that's about the only one I know. I haven't seen a Sailor Moon IP RPG yet. You know, so I mean, yet being the key word, I'm sure everything's going to be a fucking IP. I think this is,
I like the use of a dice pool system. I like this dice pool system. I like it in this game. I like the way quirks work. I think this is pretty, this is pretty good for me, Think about 7.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 7 for originality is really good for this. I mean, 7 is really good. And I do think it is really good. And then value-wise, so I have the page from Space Penguin Inc.
Space Penguin.
Don't know if you've heard of them before. Yes, there is a game. What's so cool about magical girls? From Axes and Orcs. Yeah. Hack of some Jarrett Sinclair stuff. So that's honestly the only other magical girl, straight up magical girl TTRPG that I'm personally aware of. If our hordes of listeners actually commented on our stuff, I'm sure we would get a lot of comments.
Yeah, but our millions of fans.
Yeah, right. So for this book, Spiral Bound, don't forget, it is going to cost more to do this than just Perfect Bound this thing. It's $30 for the print and PDF, and for PDF only it's $15. So I think that's the cost of it. In the context of the game, sure, you can make your own game. There's like ways to do enemies and stuff like that. But I think giving points for that going forward, I think almost all games have that. So it's kind of...
Well, for me, it depends on how much of that there is and the quality of that. Like every game has it, but some games have better tools for generating stuff in the long term. This doesn't really have those things, which is not a knock on the game. It's just a statement of fact.
And I don't see a third-party license. I mean, it's always, you don't have to, but it is always really nice if they're like, feel free to do this or that, like, whatever. I can't, with most indie TTRPGs, I can't imagine someone would be like super butthurt if you came up with like a list of new weapons for Daisy Chainsaw, but it's not listed here. So what are you thinking for value on this?
I think this is good. I think it's fine. I think it's not blowing anything out of the water. It's just slightly above average in terms of actual cost of a thing. Something like a 6.
I think a 6 works for this too. Yeah. Nothing. It is the cost that it is, right? 5 being the average is average. So 6, it is slightly above average. I do really love the spine. So that gets us to a 35. It feels like a 35. What was the last game we did? 37 for Wolfwold?
I think something like that.
Well, it was what was still in there from the last one. So I do believe that's what it was. And this feels good. I honestly also, though, so let's finish this, then we'll talk about something else. So Daisy Chainsaw 35, this is great. Don't forget, again, I almost wish we would have done season 1, season 2, season 3. So that, because I do think that, like, if we're in
season 3 right now, right?
Yeah, we are in season 3. But I really like this game. I think it slaps. I want to play it. It's super light. I think this is one that you could easily give someone like, hey guys, we're playing this on Friday, and they could easily read this super quickly, have a character. I mean, even if they were like, oh, I didn't really get to read it. Yeah, like they would easily be able to make a character. I think it would be super fun to even like the first episode where just like the club gets together and you meet the mascot and shit. Like I would love to play this game, and the rules are so clean and so tight and so nice. I really like it a lot. Like I said, with just a little bit more clarity, I think in some of the spaces this definitely goes up. And I would love to eventually see like some expanded stuff for this, maybe some like seasonal adventures, you know, some extra, some more stuff. I hope this is not the only Daisy Chainsaw that's going to exist out there, but I do highly recommend this game. I think it's super fun. I love the format, and you can grab it over on Space Penguin Inc. We will make sure that we not only link Space Penguin Inc., but we link Charlotte Laskowski's itch page and everything in there as well. And on top of that, we will announce now on Monday. We are going to have Charlotte and Binary Star Games on the show to talk about, their upcoming Celestial Bodies. I forget which version this one is called. It was the Celestial Bodies. I think it was the Terrestrial Edition. Then it was a Titan Edition. And now there is what I guess will be the culmination edition of all of it together. It's going to be coming out this coming month. Very excited for that. We did talk about Celestial Bodies really early when Binary emailed us to chat about it. They're like, I think you're the first people that talked about our itch page at all. And we're like, fuck yeah, because it's awesome. And they blew up. I mean, we'll talk about it more on the show, but they're a random itch funding thing went for like 8,000 plus or something, which is not numbers you usually see on itch. And that showed like how cool Celestial Bodies is. So really excited to talk to both of them. And we'll talk about a little bit of their stuff. Daisy Chainsaw is obviously by Charlotte, so we'll talk about a little bit of that. Binary Star put out Apocalypse Frame, and then we have again Celestial Bodies, the primary thing we're talking about. So catch us on Monday for that. So quick wrap up. What I wanted to talk about a little bit. We'll leave this page here. The scoring change that we've done to the show. I think after 4 episodes, it feels good.
Yeah, feels great. So
yeah.
We just agreed between the two of us we were just going to be meaner about everything, actually. So.
Not meaner, just more consistent. Yeah. So we have a new internal metric that we really enjoy, but I'm feeling that this is really good. We're never going to ever, but I would love to go back through a bunch of our past episodes like we did with like the first 10 episode re-review and give new scores, because there's stuff that is worse than this, that has a higher score than this.
We probably do need to lower some stuff. Maybe we'll just do it quietly.
Where in the thing that we're never going to update. What I said last time, and I even looked at numbers too. I was like, honestly, if you drop everything in our first year, besides like Adam Bass's stuff, by like 3 points, we're about where we are now. There's a lot of stuff that got 38, so it should definitely be at like 34s and 35s, in my opinion now. Because obviously our opinion matters so much, right? Like,
no one cares. You're not even listening anymore, are you? You're gone. You've already closed the app you're listening to the podcast on.
Yep, absolutely. So that's it. That's us. Hunter, you have a wonderful day. Catch us again Monday to talk with Charlotte and Binary, and we'll figure out what we're doing next Friday. And at some point in February, we will be talking to Jarrett, and some other big events happen in February. Whatever. We'll get to that too. All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye.